And we are back for UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Morales from the UFC Apex this Saturday night in Las Vegas, Nevada. Again, this card is headlined by a welterweight main event after we have a new champion in the welterweight division in Jack Della Maddalena, just defeating Bilal Muhammad in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Michael Morales is part of this new wave of UFC welterweight, and we're going to go over that for our main event prediction. Of course, all the timestamps down below if you want to skip to an individual fight. We've got 12 of them tonight from the Apex. Next week, a week off from the UFC. Supposed to be a PFL card next week, but the PFL just canceled their entire PFL Paris card for next week. So we'll figure out some content for next week. Stay tuned to the channel for that. I think we might talk about International Fight Week as a whole this week as well, because we still don't have a main event as of today. 12 total fights in this card. And folks, before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more weekly and, UFC and PFL content here on the channel. Again, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible. And on Greedo Plays, the main channel, make sure to go check out our daily MLB and NBA best bets. As let's get on to the first of our 12 fights tonight, and we're going to kick things off. This is just total UFC Apex curtain jerker. In the strawweight division, Luana Pinheiro takes on Tecia Pennington. Yeah. I'm kind of surprised, honestly, this fight's so low on the card. Again, I don't think some women's MMA fights aren't the best. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Why is this fight under Elise Reed and Denise Gomes? I don't know why. I've seen in the past where the UFC will put some fights to open up the card because they want people to watch it, but it's an Apex card. Let's be honest, the UFC does not care about these cards. They're not really trying to get people to watch early. I don't understand why this fight's opening the fight night. I don't get it. These are two ranked fighters. Pinheiro, I believe, is 15. Torres is 14, or Pinheiro is 13. Torres is 14. I think Pinheiro's still ranked, even though she's lost 3 fights in a row, but it goes to show where women's strawweight is. The UFC career of Luana Pinheiro, let's just be honest, has not been all that impressive. She got her contract in the Contender Series, beating Stephanie Frosto, who I guess you can kind of say is somewhat of a pioneer in the sport. I think she fought back in Invicta in 2013 and whatnot. Regardless, Pinheiro knocked her out in the Contender Series. She gets her contract, beats Randa Marcos because Randa Marcos illegally upkicks her, which I remember when that fight happened, people were calling Pinheiro the female Aljamain Sterling because that was like right after the Aljo Jan fight in the Apex. And it was weird, right? Pinheiro gets upkicked, she looks fine, braces for impact, and then all of a sudden, no, she's like kind of like half knocked out on the ground. She wins the fight, goes on to beat Sam Hughes, beats an old Michelle Watterson, and then has lost 3 fights in a row since to Amanda Ribas, Angela Hill, Jillian Robertson. Right? Robertson keeps on winning fights, as we saw a couple weeks ago in Kansas City. Ribas, top 10. Angela Hill, top 15. So, where is Pinheiro really? I don't know. I don't think she's top 15, if I'm being honest with you. Her wins are Sam Hughes, who's not good at mixed martial arts, and a 38-year-old Michelle Watterson. Tecia Pennington, I've been saying Torres for the last 10 years, should be able to win this fight. Again, I don't understand why the fight's so low on the card. Pennington's coming off a victory over Carlos Esparza, in which Joe Rogan cried because Carlos Esparza retired because they gave her a video package just like they did to Anthony Smith. Where's Jose Aldo's video package? Where's Stipe Miocic's video package? But we're crying over Carlos Esparza. It's great. But yeah, Torres wins the fight. I thought Esparza won, if I'm being honest with you guys. I really think Carlos should have got the nod there. Esparza, you can look at the significant strike count and you see, 80-39 in favor of Tecia Torres. I don't think so, personally. I thought Esparza won the first round, and that third round, I thought Carla won as well. You look, again, I think Carla, I know, technically significant count, Pennington wins. Let's just be honest, not much damage is being done in that fight, and I thought Esparza was outpointing her. I thought Esparza was getting takedowns. I don't know. You can make the case, second round, not really, but I thought Esparza won, whatever. Torres gets the nod, now she gets Luana Pinheiro. What Torres is going to do, right, she's good enough in striking range. Well, if she closes the gap, kinda, she's able to, I don't want to say swing, but she's able to connect inside. Grappling-wise, it's not what Torres is going to do, and we might see Pinheiro look to take this fight down. Because coming into the UFC, right, that's what Pinheiro's kind of been, she was billed as in the UFC so far. She hasn't really done much wrestling other than the Marcos fight. I think Pennington should win, and I honestly don't think it's that competitive. There's a reason, again, Pennington is a minus, 400 favorite. That's crazy. Don't play this fight. Don't bet it at all. Don't even put it in a parlay. There's no reason to bet a women's fight at minus 400 in here. There's rarely times I'm really confident in a women's fight. Last week is one of them. Why was Valentina Shevchenko an underdog against Manon Fiorot? Why? Natalia Silva is going to win that championship though in a couple months. Just you wait. But yeah, Tisha Torres or Tisha Pennington should be able to beat Luana Pinheiro. She's just better everywhere. I think Torres is going to win the fight by decision. She's 35, but I still think she's quicker than Pinheiro personally. So give me Pennington Torres to win the fight. Let's go on to our second fight of the night. We move to a matchup here in the flyweight division. We've got Hyun Sung Park taking on Carlos Hernandez. Hernandez coming off a victory in his last fight over Turmabal, the Mongolian guy with the longest name ever. Decent victory for Carlos Hernandez. I thought he lost, but it is what it is. He got dropped in that fight, and he kind of just wrestled and didn't do much with it at points. All I'm getting to here is that I think Hyun Sung Park should win. Road to the UFC guys are so weird because some of them are really good and some of them are just really mid. I think Park should win this one. I think. He was supposed to fight Turmabordel, the guy that Carlos Hernandez just beat. He was supposed to fight him in February on the Duplessis Strickland card. The Mongolian missed weight, so the fight didn't happen. So Park's been rescheduled here against Carlos Hernandez. He's 2-0 in the UFC with back-to-back victories over Seung Guk Choi to win the road to the UFC, and then a Shannon Ross victory by second-round knockout. Beating Shannon Ross, though, I mean, it's not that difficult. I think some, elementary school kids might be able to knock out Shannon Ross if you give him 5 clean punches. Regardless, though, Hyun Sung Park, right? This is a guy who's going to go out and finish fights. Only one fight of his has ever seen the distance, or has gone the distance, and that was his professional mixed martial arts debut back in November of 2018. Again, right, ran through road to the UFC, mainly first-round finishes until he got to that championship fight against Choi, where he submitted him in the third. Honestly, Park's pretty good, right? He is good on the feet. He's good on the ground. He's going to go out there. He's going to swing. Got dropped in 2 of the 3 road to the UFC fights, but ended up winning both of those, obviously. And the Shannon Ross fight, right? Dropped that guy twice in 2 rounds. But again, I like the power at Park. He can swing for being a 125-pounder. Shannon Ross's chin's just bad, though. Let's just be honest. Now, for Carlos Hernandez, this is a 50-50 fighter in the UFC, right? 3-3 record in the promotion. Honestly, guys, I think he should be 1-5. I'm just going to keep it a buck with you. I don't think he beat Victor Altamirano in his UFC debut. And let me make this very clear. The fight against Altamirano and his last fight against Mongolian Nurmagomedov, both those fights are extremely close, right? I'm not calling them robberies by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not. But I'm just making the case where if I were scoring all of these fights, I think I would have Hernandez at 1-5 in the UFC. I thought Altamirano barely got him. A very close fight, though. I mean, again, not a robbery at all. Aladni Nascimento submits him. He beats Denis Bandar, loses to Tatsuro Taira, loses to Rei Tsura, and then wins his last fight against Turmabordel over in Macau, China, right? Wins it by split decision. Hernandez is going to grapple here, I think. On the feet, I don't think he will hang with Park. Yes, Park has shown the capability, or has shown that he will get dropped in fights. Carlos Hernandez doesn't really have power. He's been dropped more times than he's dropped opponents. He's never gotten a knockdown in the UFC. He's been knocked down himself twice. So I think Carlos Hernandez will look to wrestle. But Hyun Sung Park's never been taken down so far into the Zuffa banner, or I keep saying Zuffa banner. The UFC hasn't been owned by Zuffa in years, but you know what I mean, right? In road to the UFC or just in the UFC itself, Park has not been taken down. I think he'll be fine in this spot, and I think he should be able to beat Carlos Hernandez. I think he's just a better striker than him. I don't think the fight really ends up on the ground, and I think if Hyun Sung Park gets enough time on the feet, I think eventually he's going to get a finish. I'm going to go Park second round TKO, and I think for all of our sake, for the flyweight division, I think that's something that we kind of need. We need a guy, another one of these guys who's just going to come out there, swing, try to get finishes. I think Park's an interesting prospect at 125 pounds. He's never lost. He's 9-0. He's from Korea. And I think, again, a knockout victory here over Carlos Hernandez will go a long way for his career. Again, this is a guy who's seen the judges' scorecards once, and that was his first ever fight. So 8 consecutive fights since, Park has gotten a finish. I think he's going to do it again tonight. On Saturday night. I'm going with a second round TKO victory over Carlos Hernandez for the Korean in Hyun Sung Park. Let's go to our third fight of the night. Why? Just why? This is just one of these fights that just takes all the wind out the sails. Denise Gomes versus Elise Reed. Elise Reed and Sam Hughes, I'm sorry, they piss me off. Just because I don't think they're UFC caliber fighters. Elise Reed, much less than Sam Hughes. Sam Hughes actually finished Elise Reed. How is Elise Reed 4-4 in the UFC? How? I forgot. Sam Hughes won her last fight. Oh, we're stuck with Sam Hughes for another 3 years. Oh, God. Now, it's not like a Molly McCann type hatred that I have, but it's just like, they're always on the apex. It's just, nothing screams UFC apex more than Elise Reed or Sam Hughes. Rarely do these fights result in finishes. Rarely are these fights exciting. And it's just like, why, man? The question that I have in this fight is, will Gomes finish Elise Reed or not? I'm going to go no. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. We were really hyped up about Gomes, at least at the start of her UFC run. She knocked out Bruna Brazil. She knocked out Yasmin Yayargi on her National Fight Week in 20 seconds in a fight in which she was like a plus 400 dog in. And then, like we predicted, she got fraud checked by Angela Hill. It was the most Angela Hill thing to ever happen, right? Gomes is building some momentum. She takes on a 15-13 Hill, and Hill goes out there and beats her, right? It's like Hill's last fight against Ketlin Souza. We saw that one coming from a mile away. Whenever there's an up-and-coming prospect, Angela Hill will beat them. Unless they are some uber talent, yes, Hill's going to beat those type of fighters. She'll lose to the more established names, but if you're trying to make your name off of Angela Hill, it's just not going to go too well for you. Let's just be honest. So that's what happened to Denise Gomes. She beats Eduardo Maura. She beats Karolina Kowalkiewicz in her last fight. Good wins, I'll give her that. And now here she is against Elise Reed. She'll beat Elise Reed. I have no doubt in my mind that's going to happen. She's an even bigger favorite than Tisha Torres was earlier on in this card. Elise Reed, I would say, the way to beat Denise Gomes is by taking her down, because it is, right? That's where Eduardo Maura saw a lot of success. That's why I thought Maura was going to win that fight. I'm not going to run from that, because Angela Hill took down Denise Gomes at will, right? Loma Lukbumi in Gomez's first fight was able to take the Brazilian down, and that is the way to beat her. Elise Reed's not going to do that. Elise Reed, I don't think, has landed a takedown in multiple fights at this point. Her last takedown she landed was at UFC 279 against Melissa Martinez in September of 2022. And somehow Elise Reed's 4-4 in the UFC. How? She loses to Sijara Eubanks in her first UFC fight. She beats Corey McKenna by split decision. She loses to Sam Hughes. She beats Melissa Martinez, who is actually coming off a win and is fighting Fatima Klein coming up. That's something. She loses to Loma Lukbunmi, beats Jinyu Fry, Lupi Godinez beats her, that's just a mismatch, and then beats Jessica Penne. Did I even pick Elise Reed in her last fight? I didn't. I still took Jessica Penne. I've never taken Elise Reed to win since the Sam Hughes fight, and I will not take her again. I'm taking Denise Gomes by unanimous decision. Expect her to just outstrike Reed the entire fight. I don't think Reed's going to get a takedown. Maybe she'll try. Gomes will stuff those takedowns. I think she's the more physical and stronger fighter, and I think she's a way better striker as well. So, make some popcorn if you're staying at home and watching this fight, this fight night. Denise Gomes by unanimous decision. Next up, we go on to a matchup here, and a good one, I think a fun one, in the featherweight division. Conor Matthews takes on Yair DelValle in this one. DelValle making his UFC debut against Conor Matthews, who has been struggling to find any momentum so far in his UFC career. Let's just be honest, right? Conor Matthews, I saw this coming. I just did. Because I remember when Conor Matthews was on Dana White looking for a fight. I believe it was when he fought on CES, I think. No, it's when he fought on Combat Zone is when they put him on, right? Okay, so I knew of Conor Matthews prior to Dana White looking for a fight because he fought in the Contender Series, right? He fought in CES, but I'll be honest with you, I wasn't familiar with Conor Matthews with the CES days originally because he was fighting the likes of 15-97 Jay Ellis. His fight before Francis Marshall in the Contender Series, he beat a 1-2 Josh Hardy. My point exactly. But once he got to the Contender Series, right, we watched him fight Francis Marshall. Marshall beat him. It is what it is. I really didn't think we were going to see Conor Matthews again. I'm just going to be honest with you. The guy's 32 years of age, right? He already got a shot in the Contender. I really wasn't expecting to see him one more time. Well, we did, because he came back, right? He beats Andrew Cruz on Combat Zone. That's a Dana White looking for a fight. They decided, okay, we're going to give Conor Matthews and Yuri Pantsvarov, who was also on Dana White looking for a fight that episode, a shot on the Contender Series. I very accurately predicted that Pantsvarov was going to get fraud checked. That guy blocks punches with his face, and Torres Finney dominated the guy. Conor Matthews actually goes in and beats Jair Ferris. Big upset. He beats a 10-0 guy. I don't think even Dana or the matchmakers, Sean Shelby, thought Conor Matthews was going to win that fight. He does. They're impressed. They give him a contract. Comes into the UFC, loses to Dennis Buzukja in his first fight in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and then goes on to fight Jose Delgado in his last fight just 3 months ago in the Apex, and he got knocked out. Why is Conor Matthews back already? He got knocked out in 3 minutes in his last fight. It's just, this is likely your last shot in the UFC. You can't go 0-3, and you're going to rush back and fight a guy who I'll be honest, is a little unknown in Yadier DelValle. A Cuban fighter now training, though, out of Houston, Texas, coming off a win over Antonio Monteiro on the Contender Series back in 2024. Ended up winning the fight by unanimous decision. This is a Fury FC guy. Big win over Michael Acewell back in 2023. Guy was 7-3 at the 7-0 at the time. DelValle's solid. He is. If he's somewhat competent, he's gonna knock out Connor Matthews. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't think Matthews is UFC level. He gets hit quite a bit. And he doesn't really take damage the best either. This has been a discussion also from, I guess the MMA community as a whole. The New England cartel guys just aren't that good. They're just not. And this is obviously the case with Connor Matthews. Let's just look at his UFC or his record prior to the UFC and the guys he's fought. Calvin Kattar and Rob Font and those guys, mainly Calvin Kattar, basically runs New England cartel. And the camp up there, I think it's in Massachusetts, might be in New Hampshire. It's up there. It's in Massachusetts, right? It's essentially a lot of these guys work with Calvin Kattar, right? He's the main guy over there. And Connor Matthews, again, Calvin Kattar got the immediate connection to the UFC, right? The UFC has been to I believe is Combat Zone? I'm pretty sure Combat Zone is Kattar's promotion. Yeah, they go to Combat Zone, right? That's where they found Connor Matthews. So again, Kattar books his own promotion. And they can get Connor Matthews and all these cartel guys the fights that they want and favorable matchups. So yeah, while it looks good on your record, Connor Matthews, all you need is a win on the Contender basically, because you get your shot there. If you win one fight, you're in the UFC. But ultimately, it doesn't get a guy like Connor Matthews ready for the UFC, right? I mean, again, beating a 15-97 Jay Ellis, beating Josh Hardy, who's 1-2, beating guys who are 0-7 and 1-8, that's not going to prepare you for the best fighters in the world. It's just not. It looks good on your record, sure. Connor Matthews is 7-2, 7-3? All right. But he's not proven at all. And I know DelValle, again, is not that highly talented of a guy right now, but he should go in here and he should wrestle the hell out of Connor Matthews. That's what I fully expect to happen. I know Matthews has this, grappling, past and whatnot. I think DelValle can win this fight anyway. He wants it. I expect a takedown and dominance on the ground out of DelValle. That's what he's fairly good at. Got decent judo, right? Decent wrestling. I could also see him just outstriking Connor Matthews as well, because Matthews doesn't have a chin at this point. And really, I just don't think Connor Matthews is UFC caliber. I think this is probably one of the best fights he can get. I think DelValle's good. I think he is unproven in the same sense, though. So I think it's a good matchup. I don't think the odds should be anywhere close to where they are. -420 for DelValle is ridiculous. I know Matthews hasn't been great, but what has DelValle done yet? I think he wins, but I wouldn't touch this fight with a 10-inch stick. I'm taking DelValle to win it by first round TKO on the ground, likely. I could see just a straight knockout as well, but I wouldn't bet the fight. Do yourself a favor and don't bet this one. There's a lot of just huge favorites on this card, except for this fight. Let's go to the bantamweight division, the women's bantamweight division. We've got Luana Santos taking on Tainara Lisboa. A really interesting one, right? The third women's fight in, 5 fights on this card? Oh, wow. It's the last one, though. But anyways, Luana Santos versus Tainara Lisboa, 2 Brazilian women's mixed martial arts fighters here, and honestly, not that bad of a fight. Luana Santos, 3-1 in the UFC, with her only loss being to the Skazi, Casey O'Neill. Tainara Lisboa, 2-0 in the UFC, with victories over Jessica Rose Clark and Ravana Oliveira. Now, how much can we really put into those victories? Absolutely nothing. What was Jessica Rose Clark in 2023? I don't know. Not a UFC caliber fighter. I saw Jessica Rose Clark fought in San Jose, and she's been fighting in San Jose, doing Muay Thai fights. That's great. But she's not a UFC caliber fighter. Ravana Oliveira, not a UFC caliber fighter. She's only 1 in the UFC. I don't care. I don't think that woman's very good. She had not fought anybody prior to the UFC. Literally, she's fighting Oliveira had fought only fighters making their professional mixed martial arts debuts. I don't know where they find these people. And Oliveira didn't even fight on the Contender, did she? Where do they find these people sometimes? So I don't really know where to put this Lisboa win streak. Yeah, again, she wins back-to-back fights. The Oliveira fight, too close for my liking, I'm going to be honest with you. She spent the entire 3rd round on her back against a fighter who is so unproven and never beaten anybody. She wins, right? Good victory. You get to double your pay, and you're 2-0 in the UFC now. But that's such an unimpressive performance for me personally. Luana Santos, I know she lost to Casey O'Neill, who at one point we thought was half decent until she fought Roxanne Modafferi and barely beat her. Anyways, though, Santos 3-1 in the UFC, right prior to the O'Neal fight, a win over Juliana Miller, who just, I guess, won her last fight in Kansas City. She's staying in the UFC. A win over Stephanie Yeager, and a victory over Maria Agapova by rear naked choke in the first round. I think Santos is just better on the ground, personally, right? I look at Lisboa, and I see that last fight against Oliveira, and you are on your back for the entire third round. If that happens against a fighter who's not credentialed at all and just really not that great, what's going to happen against Luana Santos, who I don't think is going to be a future champion. I don't think is going to ever be a top 10 contender, but a fighter who I think is going to be really decent in the UFC for a long time. Just a fighter hovering around the top 15 who's just going to be there, and I think has a way brighter future than Lisboa, let's just be honest, than Lisboa, who's nicknamed the Thai Panther. She doesn't even train in Thailand. Yeah, she trains in Sao Paulo. I mean, I guess her Muay Thai's all right, kind of. You're kind of a jiu-jitsu fighter. Really? I don't know. Luana Santos should win. I get why the odds are this close, but personally, again, that Oliveira fight's real telling for me. And also, guys, Lisboa is 9 years older than Luana Santos. Just think about that, right? Luana Santos hasn't even hit her prime yet. She's 25. Lisboa is 34, came to the UFC much later. Hell, Luana Santos has more professional fights than Tainara Lisboa, and Santos is 9 years younger. Both fighters training in Sao Paulo, Brazil. They're both coming up to the States, to the UFC Apex, the world-famous Apex warehouse for this one. But I do believe Luana Santos is going to go out here and pick up the victory. I think she's just going to out-wrestle Lisboa because, personally, again, I think Luana Santos has better grappling. The Casey O'Neal fight, she did get outstruck, but you look at the Maria Agapova fight, getting takedowns, getting the submission. You look at the Stephanie Yeager fight, right? I thought Santos won every single round in that fight because of the wrestling that she did. So I think she should do the same exact thing to Tainara Lisboa, who I just don't think is on her level, personally. On the feet, I don't know, and I don't really care because I think it's just going to be close enough to the point where this fight will be dictated or determined and it will be swung in the favor of Santos because of the grappling and the wrestling, where I don't think it really matters what happens on the feet, to be honest. So I'm going to go Luana Santos to win this fight by unanimous decision. Line right now is at minus 140 for Santos. I'd expect this to be driven up by the end of the week. I'd expect this at, close maybe like 175-ish for Luana Santos. She is just better than Tainara Lisboa. Don't let that Casey O'Neal fight just, confuse you from the fact that Luana Santos is just a better fighter than Tainara Lisboa. So give me Santos to win by decision. Let's go into our next one. A dead even fight here in the lightweight division. First of back-to-back lightweight fights. We got Jared Gordon taking on Thiago Moises. A good fight that's on the prelims here and an interesting one, right? Jared Gordon, saw the highs of should have beaten Paddy the Baddy Pimblett back in 2022. Since then, he's won one fight, and that's Mark Madsen. Thiago Moises, got to fight Islam Makhachev once in a co-main event. No, they main evented that. Yes, they did main event that. I don't know why I thought they main evented Marion Renault and Misha Tate that fight night. But anyways, right, Moises goes from headlining cards to here he is on the prelims. And honestly, Moises just has really made a home to the UFC Apex at this point because I feel like he only fights in the Apex now. I don't know. That's a lie. 2 fights ago, he fought in Louisville, Kentucky. I think that's... Yeah, he's mainly an Apex guy now. Last fight, a win over Trey Ogden early this year, first card of the year on the Dern Hebos card. He beats Trey Ogden. I'll be honest, uneventful fight. Thiago Moises controls Ogden pretty much the second half of the fight, and he ultimately wins. Ogden does outstrike Moises and gets out to a clear 1-0 round lead after the first, but second and third are easy. Thiago Moises, he picks up the victory. I'll be honest, can he kind of just clinch and grapple up Jared Gordon here is the question. I don't know. I'm going to lean Jared Gordon in this one. Originally, I was going to take Thiago Moises, but after looking at this and looking how Gordon fought his last fight, I know he lost, but it was a very back and forth fight, and it's honestly a fight I don't really think Thiago Moises is capable of fighting, and this is dependent on if Moises can get Gordon down. I'm going to go no. Yeah, I'm gonna go no. I think. Because Jared Gordon's last fight was weird, right? It's a good striking fight against Nasrat Haqparast, right? I mean, you look at the significant strike count, right? Gordon outstrikes him 141 to 146, but Jared Gordon ultimately goes 0 for 13 on his takedowns. If Gordon fights this kind of firefight with Moises, though, is Moises gonna be all right? Is Moises gonna be able to take those punches? Or at least he can really, throw back is my question. No, I'm switching the prediction. I'm going Moises. Yeah, no, I'm going Moises. I think he does win. Because I think Moises will get a takedown. I think he's going to. I look at Moises' last 5 fights, and honestly, okay. Win over Costa, who's higher up on this card because he fights all the time. We're going to get to that later. A loss to Benoit Saint-Denis, who good win over Propolek on the pay-per-view card last night. Again, I'm glad Benoit got that fight because he was going to lose to Joel Alvarez, so I'm glad Benoit's back in the win column. Moises then beats Mitch Ramirez, making his UFC debut. Lose to Ludovic Klein, who's fighting in 2 weeks in a co-main event against Mateus Gamrot, his biggest fight of his career. That should just be main eventing, let's just be honest, but whatever. They got Aaron Blanchfield, Macy Barber main eventing that card. And then Moises beats Ogden in his last one. Not impressive, but he wins it. Yeah, I think he beats Gordon, because now that I'm thinking about it, all right, Gordon, he was forced to fight that type of firefight with Haqparast. It wasn't really a decision that Gordon made, right? That just happened because Haqparast stuffed takedowns. Haqparast was bringing it to Jared Gordon. If Gordon wanted any chance to regain or to re-enter entry level, he was going to have to swing to try to attempt that shot or attempt to try to get in the clinch. So I don't think that's a fight that he's going to really bring on here with Moises, and I think Moises should be able to fight a much more technical fight here. I think he should be able to kind of hopefully avoid danger. And we gotta say it too, Jared Gordon is 36 years of age. He's not getting any younger. Moises, for as long as he's been in the promotion, he's got a professional mixed martial arts record of 19 wins and 8 losses. He's only 30, right? So I think Moises can win this one. Watch out for the low kicks, the low leg kicks at Thiago Moises. I think those are going to do big damage for him in this one. And I think, again, a potential to mix it up with the grappling will go a long way for the Brazilian here. And ultimately, I do think he's going to win. Again, fights at near even. Personally, I think I'd just stay away from playing this fight because, again, I literally switched the prediction within this, 4-minute interval here of the video. Just because I can see a world where Gordon wins. I can see, all right, Moises is not able to get a takedown and he's stuck in a striking fight, and ultimately he just can't get the best out of Jared Gordon in that regard. I will lean Moises ever so slightly. I think the odds will kind of stay at this point as well, but I just wouldn't bet it at all. I think Moises likely wins. I think he does enough on the feet, and I think, again, he does do damage in the clinch and looks to grapple a little bit, maybe gets a takedown. But Gordon is kind of tough to take down in his own right as well. Again, I just stay away completely, but if you force me on a pick, which I do for every single UFC fight, I will take the Brazilian here in Thiago Moises to beat Jared/Gordon by unanimous decision. We stick down the lightweight division. It is the main card opener here between Gabe Green and Mateus Camilo. I'm going to go with the Brazilian here, Mateus Camilo, to win this one. I don't think Gabe Green's the greatest, and I mean that with the utmost respect to Gabe Green. This is just a guy has really never done anything in the UFC, let's just be honest. When I think of Gabe Green, I think of, okay, this is a guy who's kind of been around for a while, and I think of him honestly just as a vet. He's only had 5 fights in the UFC, and he's been in the promotion for about 5.5 years now at this point, and he's had 5 fights. And he's had big fights, don't get me wrong. He's fought good guys, and his losses are D-Rod, Ian Machado, Gary, and Brian Battle, but his wins are Johan Lanus and Phil Rowe, right? The Phil Rowe fight made me think Gabe Green is actually going to be pretty solid, right? He goes in there, out-wrestles Phil Rowe, knocks down Phil Rowe a couple times. I was impressed, but that was at the point in time where I thought Phil Rowe was actually going to be kind of decent in his own right. That guy could just not figure it out in the UFC. Not at all, right? Gabe Green was coming off the win over Leon Shabazian going into that one, right? Phil Rowe was coming off the win over Leon Shabazian. There was some hype around him at one point. He never really figured it out. He beat Nico Price at one point too, got a fight against Neil Magny, lost to Jake Matthews, and he got cut after. He probably could have gave him one more fight, if we're being honest, but whatever. I think he was supposed to be a GFL guy, but GFL obviously not happening anymore. Anyways, Gabe Green, the wins are Johan Lanus and Phil Rowe. Johan Lanus, not the best UFC fighter. He was Canadian, and it usually means they're not that great at fighting, even though the Canadians did very well last night. But a win over Phil Rowe, again, at the time wasn't horrible. The guy's 2-3 in the UFC, though, ultimately Gabe Green is. And we have not seen him since that fight night card in Charlotte, North Carolina back in May of 2023, where he decided, all right, I'm going to go fight Brian Battle, and I'm just going to blitz him. I'm going to blitz him right off the jump. I'm going to try to back him up into the corner, and I'm just going to swing recklessly. I don't care what's happening. I'm just going to aimlessly swing at Brian Battle, and 1-2 right hook, boom. Gabe Green gets dropped and knocked out by Brian Battle. It was one of the stupidest game plans I've ever watched. I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys. I don't know what he was doing. I think it was his first... No, it wasn't even his first UFC fight with the crowd, because he fought Machado Gary in Vegas before that. I'm pretty sure that's Brian Battle's hometown in Charlotte, so the crowd is pretty hyped up. I remember the crowd went crazy after Battle won that fight. But yeah, I just don't know what Gabe Green was doing fighting that fight. it was just stupid. I'm going to be honest. He was supposed to fight James Law on top last year. Fight never happened. So now here he is against the UFC debuting fighter, and Mateus Camilo. I think Camilo is going to win. He's 24 years of age. I think this guy does have some potential. His 2 losses come in shoot, though, back in 2019, but he was, 19 years of age? Actually, 18 years of age back then. And then a loss in Fury back in 2022 against Eric Mercado. Since then, though, Camilo has won 6 consecutive fights in Fury, over in Tough Enough, which is just a promotion. But he's been winning fights, and he's coming off a victory in ZFN 2 in South Korea. That's, of course, Zombie Fight Night. That's Korean Zombies promotion. Over Dorkshabab Nabatov, who, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure is the guy who pitched himself to Dana White at the press conference. I think that's him. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the guy who asked Dana White for a UFC contract. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's the only, he's the only fighter from that region on this entire card. Takashi Sato fought on this card. He still fights? Damn. Anyways, so yeah, Camilo wins the fight by unanimous decision, right? Has shown decent striking and decent grappling in the past. Has been subbed a couple times, not really too concerned there. Gabe Green's chin is just glass, though, it is. And if Camilo's able to hit him a couple times, I think he's going to do damage. Will he be able to knock him out? I don't know. But I do think I think Camilo's shots should, strikes should give Gabe Green some problems. He doesn't eat damage all that well. And I think if he has to go to the wrestling, we'll see, because Gabe Green does have a decent wrestling background. Good enough, I'll say. So I think ultimately we just see a striking fight, and I think Mateus Camilo is going to get the better of him in this one. I'm going to go late finish for Mateus Camilo. I'm going to go 3rd round TKO. I'll go 2nd round TKO for Camilo. I don't know why more people aren't picking that. He hasn't gotten many knockouts recently, but I'll get Gabe Green. I see a guy whose chin I think is just not there. No, it's not fair. He's just been knocked out once in the UFC. He was knocked out multiple times prior to the UFC, though. Jalen Turner knocked him out in Bellator. No, I'll go Camilo by decision. I think, again, the strikes that he does will affect the game plan of Gabe Green. It's just going to throw him off. I think Camilo should be able just to find a way to win probably every single round. I just don't think Gabe Green's that good. So I'm going to go Mateus Camilo to win this fight by unanimous decision. Let's go to the featherweight division, right? We talked about it a little bit earlier. Costa is back again, and Julian Erosa is back again as well. So 2 guys who fight all the time, usually give us pretty good performances and pretty good fights, right? Erosa known for being, I kind of want to say Julian Erosa is this era's Joe Lozon, right? Great fights, always gonna win fight of the night, will win performance bonuses, but it's never really been a top 15 guy. I feel like, Lozon, I think, had at one point reached the top 15. I kind of feel like that's what Julian Erosa is. So you'd think, you know what, we're going to put this guy in front of a crowd, right? Fun fights. You could have done him and Costa for, I don't know, what's the next card with the fight, or card with the crowd. I think it's the New Jersey pay-per-view. It's only got 12 fights on it right now. You could have put this on the O'Malley card, O'Malley-Merab card on the prelims, a fun fight to get the crowd going. You reward both these guys for staying active, but instead you just throw them on the world-famous UFC Apex warehouse. Why? Just don't understand. Costa's had back-to-back victories in front of crowds against Andre Fili, where he subbed him in Seattle, and then he went out there and beat Christian Rodriguez over in Mexico City. But now he's fighting in the Apex. This guy just fought in February and March. He took April off, and now he's back in May. What? And Julian Erosa, who usually is fighting in front of crowds, just fought in Miami, knocked out Darren Elkins last month in April, gets rewarded by fighting in the Apex. He beat Christian Rodriguez prior to that in Denver, and now, here you go. Welcome back to the UFC Apex. It's so stupid. Guys, the fact that UFC Apex is still a thing is ridiculous. I thought it was done. I legitimately thought we were almost done with the Apex, right? Because you look at the entire summer schedule real quickly. I'm going to talk about this. Look at the rest of the summer schedule, okay? Next, in 2 weeks, when the UFC returns, Blanchfield Barber's back in the Apex. But after that, they go to New Jersey for Merab and O'Malley. Then Atlanta for Usman Buckley. Then they go to Azerbaijan for Jamal Hill and Khalil Roundtree. Then International Fight Week in Vegas. Then a fight night in Nashville. Then Poirier Holloway in New Orleans. Then Whitaker and Reiner de Ritter in Abu Dhabi. And then, of course, back in the Apex August 2nd and August 9th. Prime summer. Everyone's out. Let's do fights in front of crowds. And you go back to the Apex for back-to-back weeks to kick off August. What are you doing? It's like they don't even care. So stupid. Why does the Apex exist? I will put up with one Apex every 3 months. That is my limit. I'll put up with one every 3 months. It's my reason for this. I think they should be gone completely, but I will give you one thing for this. keep the Apexes around. Actually, let's go one every 4 months, okay? Once every 4 months, and they're just joke cards, like this, for the most part. Like, we laugh, oh, Elise Reed's in the card. We can bring back all of the Apex, hits. Elise Reed can fight, maybe Strickland can main event. He's too good at main event Apexes anymore. Marcin Tybura can be on the card. Like, prime Apex guys who have always been in the Apex can fight on these cards, right? And it's just, 15 fight cards in the Apex where you just throw away a bunch of talent and then you give us a crappy main event, even worse than this one, right? Give us a women's main event, put Mackenzie Dern in the main event, boom, right? Throw it on ESPN+. I'm okay with that. The fact they're still doing back-to-back cards in the Apex like we have right now and then again in August is the most ridiculous shit ever. It just is. It's the stupidest. It's the dumbest stuff. Anyways, Melt Costa, Julian Erosa, this will be a very good fight, and it's going to be in front of no crowd, which is the dumbest thing. Both these fighters are fun. Julian Erosa, obviously, is the king of violence, I feel like. I know that's someone's nickname, but regardless, who's king of violence? Oh, God, this is bad. I feel like this is someone's nickname. Is it not? It's Mike Perry. Yeah. Mike Perry. I don't know why I wanted to say Carlos Condit, but I was like, no, he's a natural born killer. All right, Erosa, though, he's always fun, right? He's always going to give you good fights. Melt Costa, though, slowly becoming a real talented product at this point now, right? I mean, this is a guy I saw in LFA, right? Watched him over there, won his last fight before making his move to get Thiago Moises in the UFC. Eventually lost that fight, but since then, beat Austin Lingo, lost to Steve Garcia, who's actually really damn good, and then 3 straight wins since the Garcia loss to Shaila Nordembeka, and the 2 wins so far in 2025, Andre Fili and C-Rod Christian Rodriguez. You know what Erosa is going to do, right? He will get chinned, but he's going to go out there and he's going to swing in his own right. 3 straight finishes, 3 straight wins over Ricardo Ramos, Christian Rodriguez, and Darren the Damage Elkins. Elkins looked lost, I'm just going to say, in the Erosa fight. That was kind of sad to watch, if I'm being honest. Anyways, I think this fight's going to be really fun. I think Melt Costa is going to win it, though. I really like what Melt Costa does on the ground. He's a very talented jiu-jitsu player. I know Erosa's good down there, too, and he's never been subbed. But I think that's just another element of this fight where Costa will succeed. I actually think this is going to go the distance. I know both these guys, and I said it earlier, are almost guaranteed to finish. My thing is Erosa, he does swing recklessly, and he will get finished on the feet. But I will say this, he's honestly maybe even a better jiu-jitsu guy. He's just one of those guys, though. He's going out there to put on a show. He's going to, give us a war. He doesn't really care about actually always winning. Let's just be honest, right? I think Melt Costa is going to take Erosa down. He's going to look to sub him. I think Erosa's too good to get submitted. This is a guy who's got 14 submission victories in his past. He has not been submitted once, right? Because for as crazy as you want to be on the feet, for as fun as you want to be striking-wise, and that's what Julian Erosa is, as long as you have good submission defense, you're not going to get subbed. Like, it doesn't matter how crazy you are fighting. If you know how to, escape positions, if you're good defensively with jiu-jitsu, you're not going to get submitted. So I think Erosa is able to survive that. I just think Melt Costa is going to win on the ground. I think he's going to have positioning. And on the feet, I think it's a very competitive fight. But again, I think the threat of the takedown makes Melt Costa a little bit better in this one. And I'm going to take Melk Ezekiel. I'm just calling Melk. We're going to take Melk Costa to beat Julian Erosa by unanimous decision. I think it should be fun, and I think Erosa is going to have his moments. Don't get me wrong. He will have spots where he will wobble Melk Costa. This is going to win Fight of the Night. It's going to be great, and it should have been in front of a crowd, but I'm going with Melk Costa to beat Julian Erosa for his 3rd victory in the last 4 months. Melk Costa beats Erosa, and now we're going to have to start talking about, okay, maybe a top 15 opponent next. So give me Melk Costa. Let's get him back in there pretty soon as well. Let's go on to our next one in the middleweight division. Justin Stoltzfus takes on Nurslan Ruziboev. Let's be honest, this might be the easiest fight for me to predict on the entire card. I think Stoltzfus' last fight was a fluke. I'm just gonna be honest. Middleweight's confusing sometimes to the point of like the Justin Stoltzfus and Marc-Andre Barrios of the world. Marc-Andre Barrios won his last fight a couple days, or just yesterday, against Bruno Silva, where he literally cracked Bruno Silva's skull. Silva's done. He doesn't really throw anymore. His chin's horrible. Pereira did crazy things to that man's career. He was once a hyped up and comer at one point. Pereira beat him, and then it is what it is. People laughed at me at one point, too, for saying if Bruno Silva beat Alex Pereira, he was a fight away from the belt. He was at that point in time, right? I still thought Pereira was going to win, but just at the time I was saying, okay, if Silva can get by Pereira, he's now 5-0 in the UFC and probably a fight away from the belt. would have got Sean Strickland likely. Now, he wouldn't have the hype that Pereira had, but I'm just saying that was something I said at the time, and I got laughed at for saying it. Anyways, Stoltzfus versus Nolston or Ruziboev. Stoltzfus, right? Okay, yeah, going back to my point. He knocked out Marc-Andre Barriault, which is just crazy to me. And that's the fight where I was like, all right, I'm never picking Marc-Andre Barriault to win a fight ever again. I don't care he knocked out Bruno Silva. I still don't think Barriault's good. He's not, okay? If you get knocked out by Stoltzfus, there's something wrong. All right, I was saying before that fight with Stoltzfus and Barriault that, okay, Stoltzfus shouldn't really even be in the UFC anymore. This guy's not that good. And if he's going to beat Barriault, it's going to be on the ground because he's a submission guy. Well, he knocked him out cold, catches him clean with a right hook, puts Barriault down in his home country. You should be ashamed of yourself, Marc-Andre Barriault. But good for Power Bar right now. He's coming off a victory in his home country. Great. I think he's now like, what, 1-4 in Canada? Stoltzfus, what, 3-5 in the UFC? Wins over Dwight Grant, Puna Soriano, who's never as good as we thought he was, and Marc-Andre Barriault. I believe Stoltzfus has been an underdog in every single fight in his UFC career with the exception of the Dwight Grant fight. Got front kicked in the face by Abusmagomedov. Bruno Ferreira brutally spinning back elbowed that guy. That was nuts. But, you know, Stoltzfus now against Nolston Ruziboev, who's coming off a victory over Eric Mocanio. That was a last-second replacement. Typology is saying Ruziboev was a -270 favorite. I don't think that was nowhere close. I think Ruziboev was like -600 at close. He took on a guy who's supposed to be in someone's corner, I'm going to be honest, and knocked him out pretty easily, beat a 35-year-old guy in the second round, making his UFC debut. That was one of the easiest picks I've ever made. Yeah, Ruziboev's going to knock out Dustin Stoltzfus. I don't know why the UFC doesn't think Ruziboev's that great. And I don't think, again, he's a top 15 guy, but it's like, all right, he's going to beat Stoltzfus here. He's going to probably knock him out in the first round. I don't think Stoltzfus is going to take down Ruziboev. Ruziboev actually has a decent grappling game. Yes, Buckley took him down, but Buckley's actually pretty good. All right. But he'll knock out Stoltzfus because Stoltzfus, again, against competent strikers, he's going to get knocked out, right? And Ruziboev's actually decent. This guy's now 3-1 in the UFC, gonna be 4-1, and I get it. The Dumas fight, he poked him in the eye and won, but who cares, right? It is what it is. Like, I mean, like, I'm not gonna defend Dricus Dumas. I'm just not. He knocked out Bruno Ferreira in his first fight, beats Mocanio in his last one. You know, lost to Joaquin Buckley, but guys, Buckley's a fight away from a title shot. I think they're gonna make the Buck versus the Cuck. They're probably gonna go Buckley, Ian Gary, if Buckley can beat Usman. And then if Buckley wins those two fights, he's probably fighting for a belt pretty soon. I'm not against it at this point. You know what? I'm kind of sold on Buckley right now. I think he's going to probably knock Usman out. He's just going on the Legends run, right? Beats Colby, beats Wonderboy. Now if he can beat Usman, my goodness. Maybe they just give him Actually, they should just give him Leon after that. Give him only, like... I know Edwards isn't as old as the other guys, but, like... Yeah, let's just keep the Legend Tour going. Honestly. Screw Ian Gary. Let Ian Gary fight Sean Brady. That should probably be in the fight there. I don't know where, by the way, Shavkat is. I feel like everyone's just forgotten about Rakhmonov now that JDM's the champion. But he's at the end of the line because Islam's going to be fighting JDM next. So, cool. Let Ilya fight Charles Oliveira. Ooh, so pumped. Like, again, good fight, but Islam and Ilya was right there, and we're not going to do it. Great. Yeah, Ruziboev's going to knock out Dustin Stoltzfus. So I think the UFC kind of just, I don't know why they keep giving him low-level guys. And yes, I believe Dustin Stoltzfus is low-level. He's not that great of a striker. He's a good grappler, but he's not going to take Ruziboev down. So why is Ruziboev still fighting guys who are just, you know, borderline UFC talent, if I'm being honest with you? He'll be 4-1. His only loss is Joaquin Buckley, who's in the top 5. I don't know. I think Ruziboev's going to tune up a lot of these guys. I wouldn't mind seeing him in like an Abusmagomedov next. Or no, give him Michel Pereira. Pereira's coming off a loss to Abus. Let's do Ruziboev Pereira next to see what happens. But he will easily finish Dustin Stoltzfus here in the first round. Let's go into the lightweight division. Our featured fight of the night. Marion Santos takes on Super Sodiq Yusuff in a very interesting fight. Santos actually the favorite in this one at -135. Super Sodiq Yusuff coming back at +115. This is interesting, right? Because Yusuff's coming off back-to-back losses now. The loss to Diego Lopez at UFC 300 and a fight before that in a main event where he did lose to Edson Jr. Barbosa. So again, Yusuff at one point in time was pretty hyped up. Now he's 6-3 in the UFC and 13-4 professionally. Can Marion Santos make that next step is the question. because this is a guy who's 15-1 professionally, coming off the Ultimate Fighter victory, the win over Khan Ofli. He beats Francis Marshall in his last fight by split decision, which I don't know. It's a close fight. It is. The win over Marshall. And by the way, this Apex card is just filled with a bunch of guys who just fought. But Santos wins barely. I picked Santos to win, so I wasn't complaining. I don't know. I think you can make the case Marshall gets that one. I think you can. But I'm not mad at it. I'm not. Right? Mariano Santos, I think, does more damage, I think. So he gets the nod. Okay, we're cool with that, right? He now gets Super Sodiq Yusuff. This is one hell of a step up, but I think it's a manageable one. I don't know if Yusuff is going to fraud check him. I just don't know. He's lost back-to-back. We didn't get much of the Diego Lopez fight because he just got knocked out and wobbled immediately. The Barbosa fight was very good, but he ultimately lost it. Barbosa was just the better guy at the end of the fight. Can Santos make that next step and beat Sodiq Yusuff? I don't know, right? The Khan Ofli fight, he knocks him out. Marshall, he does damage in the feet. Can Yusuff outstrike him? I don't know, actually. I think Mariano Santos might win this one. He has just gotten by in a lot of fights, let's be honest. But now I look at Sodiq Yusuff, I'm like, all right, who has he really beat? Look at the UFC run. All right, Suman Mokhtarian, Shayman Moraes, Gabriel Benitez, Andre Fili, good win. I think that was on a main card, right? Of a undercard of a Connor Cowboy pay-per-view. Lost to Arnold Allen, win over Caceres is probably his best win, and then a win over Don Shanis, and then back-to-back losses to Barbosa and Lopez. I just don't know where to put Sodiq Yusuff. The odds favor Mariano Santos slightly. I think they just think changing the guard here. And I guess I'll go ever so slightly Mariano Santos to win. It's just Yusuff's lost back-to-back, and I don't think Santos is going to get taken down here. That's not really what Yusuff does. Yeah, I think he's gotten one takedown in his UFC run. That was against Caceres back in 2022. So we're going to see a striking fight, and I think Santos, now given the opportunity, I think rises to the occasion against a guy who hasn't won since 2022 in a fight where he was a minus 1,000 favorite against Don Shanis. It was a short notice call for Shanis, and obviously Yusuff mopped the floor with him. Shanis hasn't been in the UFC since early 2023. Don Shanis has had 6 fights since that Super Sodiq Yusuff fight outside of the promotion. So, right, like, I think, yeah, Yusuff hasn't beaten anybody. And then I look at the losses again. Barbosa, really good fight, back and forth, right? Yusuff won rounds early, but ultimately he loses. And I know this is a 3-round affair, but Mariano Santos has some pretty good striking. And I know the Francis Marshall fight was extremely close, but it's just one of those fights, all right, you get by, you pick up the victory. Marshall gave him problems on the ground, but Mariano Santos ultimately did outstrike him, regardless of what you think about that fight. The final scorecards have Santos winning. And then this fight before that, for the Ultimate Fighter, he knocks out Ofli. I mean, he's got decent power for the division as well at 145 pounds. And I think the UFC kind of wants him to win, obviously, right? Ultimate Fighter guy, 24 years of age. We can start pushing him now. I don't really know what the future is for Super Sodiq Yusuff. But again, he hasn't won a fight since 2023. It's been, 2 years and 7 months since Super Sodiq's won a fight. Santos has, fought an LFA plus won the Ultimate Fighter and won another fight in the UFC since Super Sodiq's last win. I'm going to go Santos win by decision. I think he can go out here and outstrike Yusuff. I don't think it's a levels fight because I really don't think Super Sodiq is that much better than Mariano Santos. I'm going with the Brazilian here and Mariano Santos to beat Super Sodiq Yusuff by unanimous decision. As we go on to our light heavyweight co-main event, Rodolfo Bellato takes on Paul Craig. This is a co-main event. God, these cards are so abysmal. It's crazy. I mean, the Yusuff fight should really be the co-main, but here we go. Paul Craig, Rodolfo Bellato. Bellato gets a co-main event after drawing in his last fight against Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute's second, third career draw or whatnot. What does Paul Craig offer in the big 2025? Nothing. Bo Nickel beat him by decision. Bo Nickel outstruck him. Paul Craig before that lost to Kyle Borhaio. He got knocked out. Brendan Allen subbed him. Sure, the jiu-jitsu is always going to be there with Paul Craig. The guy hasn't landed a takedown since 2023 where he upset Andrea Muniz. He's lost 5 out of his last 6 fights. He kind of needs this fight to stay in the promotion, let's be honest. I don't think Paul Craig can outstrike Rodolfo Bellato, and the question remains, can he take down Bellato? Well, Bellato's got a 100% takedown defense rate so far in the UFC. Jimmy Crute went 0 for 3, right? It's tough to take this guy down. I don't think Craig is going to do that. Bearju is one of those few guys who will just straight up pull guard. I think he's kind of just being thrown out to get slaughtered here, if I'm being honest with you. And it's not even that I think Bellato's going to be some up-and-coming hot prospect. I don't think he is. I just think he's so much better than Paul Craig. Because, again, stylistically, what does Paul Craig do that's going to really hurt Bellato here? Sure, he can strike with them, but eventually, again, Paul Craig is going to get cracked. He's not a better striker than Bellato. He doesn't have the power Bellato's got. And sure, he can clinch up and try to get the fight down, but I don't think he's going to be able to. And again, Paul Craig has never been the best at traditional takedowns. He's taken on a guy who does have good takedown defense. And what? Okay, you pull guard. We've seen Craig do it before, but I just don't think it's going to go very well for him. Bellato's got decent defensive submission skills as well. He's got jiu-jitsu, right? He's from Brazil, right? I mean, again, that's not the be-all, end-all, but right, this is a guy who's trained jiu-jitsu all of his life. He's a good striker at the same time. He's got power. I just don't see how Bellato doesn't win this fight, right? Rodolfo Bellato is 12-0 when you take away his 2 fights with Vitor Petrino, obviously, oddly enough. 2019, he got knocked out by Petrino in 25 seconds, and in 2022, Petrino knocked him out in the Contender Series in the 2nd round. You take away those losses to Petrino, this guy's never lost before. The Jimmy Crute fight was close, right? He ultimately draws with Jimmy Crute. It is what it is. Jimmy Crute dominates the first round. It's not even competitive, but Bellato comes back and wins the second two. That's how you get your 28-28. Not mad at it at all, actually. That's kind of how I saw that fight going. After, obviously, I watched it play out. But here against Paul Craig, I mean, yes, this is the biggest layup fight, I think, ever. Paul Craig, again, in his prime, and I know we're talking about prime Paul Craig, which is interesting, but at his peak, yeah, Paul Craig did offer a tough stylistic matchup for a lot of guys. He was never the best striker, but yeah, he could clinch up with you, he could pull guard, and if he got a takedown, he got on top, he's, dangerous. And against other grapplers, yeah, Paul Craig, again, can be really dangerous. But against a guy like Bellato, who is kind of just, I'm going to be honest, built to beat Paul Craig, good takedown defense, good jiu-jitsu, heavy hands. Not the best, not the cleanest striker, don't get me wrong. Like, he's going to get outstruck by better strikers. He kind of just throws hard and throws with power, but as the fight goes on, yes, he's going to, I don't know if I want to say as the fight goes on, but there are going to be spots where he's going to get clipped. I think is the better, what I'm looking for there. So against better strikers, he will lose. But nothing's being offered back at him here with Paul Craig. So Bellato's going to win on the feet. And on the ground, I don't think Craig, again, yes, he can throw up his crazy, right, triangle choke like he submitted Krylov with a couple of years ago, and it's probably his best victory of his career. Actually, no, he beat Jamal Hill at one point. But I just don't think it's happening. Paul Craig's 37. He doesn't have much left in the tank, and I think he gets knocked out in the first round here by Rodolfo Bellato. I'm going Bellato first round knockout here in our co-main event. Main event time, we move now to the welterweight division. Gilbert Burns is a plus 500 underdog against the Ecuadorian Michael Morales. And I get it. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Gilbert Burns is, 38 years old? Yes, he's 38 years of age. He's lost 3 straight fights. I mean, rewind back to the Masvidal fight. He beat Jorge Masvidal, Masvidal's final fight in the UFC. For now, I hope it's his last fight. He gets to fight Bilal Muhammad on short notice. Winner was booked to fight the winner of Leon and Colby. Gilbert loses to Bilal. Since then, he loses to Jack Della Maddalena. And then he just got dominated in his last fight by Sean Brady. Now, that's not that horrible now, considering how Sean Brady looked even better and dominated Leon Edwards even more than he did Gilbert Burns. But ultimately, Burns didn't really offer anything to Sean Brady. He lost the fight by decision every single round, right? And by the way, there's so many up-and-coming guys at welterweight, man, right? Brady, guys who've never fought for the belt. Brady, Shavkat, Buckley, JDM's the champ now, Michael Morales, I'm forgetting someone, Ian Machado, Gary, I don't think I said yet. There's so many upcoming guys, right? I mean, I personally think, the way, honestly, I look at the welterweight division, guys, this is going to change if Islam becomes a champion, but Islam's going to be forced to fight all of these guys if he beats JDM. I kind of rather JDM win because, honestly, guys, I kind of just want to see the hot potato go on with the belt. I don't know, because there's so many, capable guys, and I don't think one of them's that much better than the other. Guys, I think easily Sean Brady could be champion. I think Shavkat could be champion. I think Ian Machado, Gary has his best night, he could be champion too. Buckley, if he pieces it together, could eventually be champion. Unfortunately, against this old wave at welterweight, Usman, I think Edwards is going to get flushed out too with that, but Edwards, Usman, Colby, Burns, Wonderboy, they're all still in the top 10 at this point. I think they're all going to eventually get flushed out pretty quickly. Again, how many more fights does Usman have after Buckley? How many fights does Colby really have left, right? I still think they're going to do Colby Wonderboy, I think, to try to get Colby back on the right track, so they can probably do Colby, Ian, Gary. I still think they're going to try to do that. Who knows what Covington at this point? But right, I think this old wave's going to get flushed out pretty quickly. But there's so many now young guys who haven't fought for the belt and are all going to get a crack eventually. That's where I'm not happy about Islam going up. Because again, yes, it sets up the JDM fight. That's great. But Islam wins. I hope he just vacates 155 then, if I'm being honest, because I don't want to hold up 2 weight classes, because there's too many guys who need to get shots at 170 now. Like, Sean Brady's deserving of a title shot right now. If Islam wasn't going up, that would be the obvious next fight. It would be Brady versus Jack Della. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I'm taking Sean Brady to beat Jack Della Maddalena. But then easily, guys, I could see a world where, okay, Shavkat just beats Sean Brady, or Belal gets another shot and beats Sean Brady. And then, okay, here comes Joaquin Buckley, and potentially he wins the belt. And here comes, I don't know, Jack Della again, right? There's just Ian Gary, Michael Morales. I don't think Morales is on that level just yet, but we're going to see tonight. That's my thing. Like, I kind of just want to see all these young guys get to fight each other for a belt. I know, again, none of them are huge draws at this point, other than potentially Shavkat, but that's where I'm like, oh, if Islam wins, great. I don't know. Because I feel like, I think Islam's going to beat Jack Della, but I think Islam just kind of beats all these other guys, I think. I don't know. Yeah, I think Islam beats everyone else in the weight class. I kind of just want to see all these guys who I think are kind of on the same level all get to fight. But ultimately, I think they're all going to end up just losing to Islam. We'll see. I expect Belal to go up to 85, by the way, just because Islam's probably going to become the champion. And then I don't think Belal's going to do all that well at 85. I think he should stay at 70, but he's kind of stuck with Islam, obviously, potentially becoming the champion. By the way, Belal fought a good 4th and 5th round, just ran out of gas, let Jack Della get back up to his feet in the 5th. Wasn't a bad fight. Belal just should have gone to the wrestling earlier, but it is what it is. I really enjoyed the fight, I'm going to be honest. Good for Jack Della, by the way. I'm happy for JDM. I hope he beats Islam, but probably won't. This fight, though, again, we will see how good Michael Morales truly is. I think he's better than Burns. Burns is 38 years old, and Michael Morales has been nothing short of dominant so far in his UFC run, right? Sure, he's had his fights where he'll just kind of point fight and win, but his last fight against Neil Magny really didn't waste no time. Dropped him, finished him on the ground, got the fight done with. Can he finish Gilbert Burns and really make a statement? I'm going to say yes. I don't know what a 38-year-old Gilbert Burns is anymore, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to hesitantly buy into the Michael Morales hype right now. I'm going to go Michael Morales first round knockout. He's got power. He does. And I don't really know what punches Burns can take at 38. It was always a concern early in Burns' career. I remember before the Usman fight and after the Usman fight too. And this notion went away after the Hamzat fight. But prior to Burns fighting at 70, he was known for just having a piss poor chin at 155 pounds, right? He always got rocked pretty easily, and I remember like Colby would always go at Burns for having weak chin, right? I'm sure Colby called him a soy boy or whatnot, but right, like that was kind of always the thing around Gilbert Burns. And he's been fine recently, sure, but now you're 38. Jack Della knocked you out. You really didn't take that many hard shots in the Sean Brady fight because you just got out-grappled the entire fight, and Brady was just a lot of, punches from the ground. Nothing that, was going to knock Burns out. It's just punches that are doing damage, obviously. I think Morales does find that way to the knockout here. I could see Burns making this really entertaining, kind of making it like just a firefight on the feet and saying, all right, I'm going to go out on my shield, and if you're going to finish me, you're going to have to go through hell to do it. I could see that. I just think Morales is going to get the better of a lot of these striking exchanges personally. And I think that with that, Morales will make that next step into the weight class. He's 25, man. A lot of these guys are so young. Again, we talk about Jack Della, who's the champion now. Maddalena's 28 years old. All these guys are super young, and again, that goes back to my point. I want to see all these guys get to fight for the championship. Seriously, let's keep the welterweight championship active. And that's why I think if JDM wins, it's the best thing for the weight class. If Jack Della wins the belt, or it beats Islam, then immediately he hops back in there against a Sean Brady, or a Buckley, or a Gary, right? Just hear the ages of all these guys at welterweight who are rising the ranks, right? This new era of 170 pounders, right? And again, the old era was great, but just listen, okay, right? Sean Brady is 32, but still, like, Usman and Colby and Wonderboy are all, getting up to 40, right? Buckley's 31, Jack Della's 28, Shavkat's 30, Morales is 25, there's Prathez too. I'm not going to put him in that next tier just yet. And then Ian Machado Gary's, 26, 27, right? There's so many young guys who all are right there. That's why it's not the best time for Islam to go up, but he's going to do it because he doesn't want to fight Topuria. It's just what it is, guys. And sure, again, yes, the opportunity does present itself, and I think Islam sees Jack Della as a guy he can beat. Jack Della fought Belal really well. I ultimately would go with Islam to beat Maddalena, and then, okay, what happens next? Oh, we get Sean Brady versus Islam Makhachev. think Brady could stand a chance, but I think Islam probably wins, and I think Islam probably holds the belt for a very long time. We'll get to that, though, when we get there. Likely, again, Jack Della versus Islam in September in Australia. But until then, we are going with Michael Morales here to beat Gilbert Durinho Burns. I just don't know what a 38-year-old Burns is going to offer. I think Morales will get the best of a lot of these striking exchanges. And ultimately, again, I don't know where Burns is at this age, especially with his chin. I'm taking Morales to win and to give Gilbert Burns his 4th consecutive loss. Likely sending him for a retirement fight in his next fight. Hopefully in front of a crowd. Hopefully in a fight night or pay-per-view card, you know, maybe feature bout or opening bout of a pay-per-view in Brazil, right? Let's get Burns a farewell fight. If you want him to win a fight, you have to give him a guy outside of the top 15. You can give him Daniel Rodriguez, who's coming off a victory. Yeah, or if you just, honestly, passing the torch, give him Carlos Leal. I wouldn't mind that. Give him Carlos Leal, you know? Or you could just do the Colby fight they've been talking about for years. Maybe that happens. I don't know. Regardless, folks, that'll do it. We're taking Michael Morales to beat Gilbert Durinho Burns by first round knockout. And thank y'all for watching our full card predictions here for this UFC Apex card. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back in 2 weeks for UFC Fight Night Blanchfield versus Barber. Until then, folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. And Mamba forever.